Thank you, everybody. And good morning, everybody joining our W3 Smart podcast session. And I'm very excited having James Douglas, EVP of Customer Service and Customer Experience, Alectra Utility, a great leader, great industry thought leader, a great tech person. I love to always hear one-on-one or in these kind of podcasts when I extract a lot of intelligence from him. I'm very excited to today kickstart this our V3 Smart session for the is a grid ready for eMobility, where we see the eMobility meet the grid. Are we good reasons as we see the EV and the e-mobility getting penetrated, what opportunity and what uncertainty we are going to be creating for this connected future. I want to welcome quickly Mr. James Douglas. Again, as I said, the great leader, great friend. And James, I know that I know enough about you to always get excited. And I know the audience is also want you, and a lot of audience already know about you. But it will be good to quickly give an introduction about you and your role and all the great stuff you're doing in the Electra.
Perfect. Thank you very much for this, Deepak. So James Douglas, EVP Customer Experience with Alectra Utilities. We're servicing 1.1 million customers in the Greater Toronto Area in Ontario, Canada. I've been in the industry since '92. Was on the unregulated side of the fence, and had a company that I sold to Alectra back in 2016, and had the luxury of joining the executive team at Alectra with that, and today part of 8 executives that run the Alectra line of businesses.
Thank you, James. So I think as Jim, this is going to be very open discussion, as this podcast is all about people, all of us learning from an industry leader like you, and knowing actually when we see the EV penetration, the e-mobility across the board, that growth required power companies like you to be ready in advance for which never been the situation in century, where the unpredictable demand from every side coming. Doesn't matter is a residential customers buying one EV or two EVs, where they are going to be creating the load to the fleet or the commercial. With that, all these changing across the board, your readiness as a power utility, what is the core, when I look at that, according to you, shaping the force of having the e-mobility with this variability and the grid planning, because this is the first time customer demand, which is unpredictable, with the grid readiness and the planning coming to the picture. What do you think about, and you want to share on that topic?
Sure. Okay, so we're going to do a step back to go forward on it, right? So from our side, I think the key thing is to make sure from the industry standpoint is that, as we go down this path of e-mobility, electrification coming our way, the pace of it is what needs to be understood. And so for us, that planning is critical. So for example, today we're over 70,000 EVs within our service territory. And then current forecasts show that out by 2040, that'll be around 1.4 million vehicles within our service territory. Now, the pace of that, depending upon government policies, and so forth, that could fluctuate and change, delay, whatever. But I think the key aspect for us is that we can't be a barrier to electrification. So what we have to have is, what is the actual strategy, not from a top-down approach, but from a bottom-up, from the customer's angle to this, to let them, as they go down this path of e-mobility, what are some things that we're recognizing as they engage with their local utility that we need to make sure we're enabling? So parts of that are on the aspect of this, like we break it down into getting in and just actually part of that decision-making process. So we say, we're going to be your trusted energy partner. So part of that, we have to change the tool sets to make it to ease of transacting with us. So that's that digital play that we're working with yourself on, Deepak, on SEW. And what we've identified is that the industry's, a lot of it's focused on selling the vehicle. Right. And there's a lot more to the journey than just selling the vehicle. So for us, what we want to make sure of is that those decision points with the customer. So we had the luxury of working with our regulator as part of this education campaign. And we started one as our eMobility sandbox with the Ontario Energy Board. And what it's allowing us to do is to engage the customers right from the beginning of their journey on points of their decision. So meaning, asking customer different questions than what they're asked today. What's the habits of your driving? How far do you go to work? Are you going on we call it a 400 series highways, a major highway, and or are you on just standard roads where you're doing, regular, lower speeds and so forth? They all have different impacts on battery. So what's the range, like what's your driving habits? What's the range you're going to need? And then what vehicle types meet that? And then it's taken to the customer to say, okay, so based upon what you're telling us, you want to, and we've done survey consultations with customers, and we're seeing well over 80% of our consumers' preferences, they want to charge at home. So it's working with customers to say, hey, now you have to start making some charging habit decisions. And those charging habit decisions are a level 1 charger, your vehicle is not going to be ready for you for work. And so hence, if you go to a level 2, this is how long it's going to take you to, get into it with a 30 amp charger, 40 amp charger, 80 amp charger. They're all decisions that the customer has to make based upon customer preferences they do. But they're not being asked that as part of their journey with the automotive industry. And then we start layering on, okay, these decisions you're making, now what's the impact on rate plans, on your bill, based upon those charging habits? Like, are you setting yourself up to be on the most efficient rate plan for this new investment that you're bringing into your home? So it's the education side, it's the understanding, characteristics, it's understanding what those markets have, and then the impact of those decisions on the availability of those vehicles. Because like what we're seeing from a trend is that the industry is doing a fabulous job on, taking care of the range anxiety portion of this. But it's understanding those characteristics to say, hey, the vehicle is going a lot longer, but you also have to address your level 2 charging decisions as well. Because if you want to use the capability of the vehicle, maybe that 30 amp charger is not going to be the one for you anymore to be able to have it at 80% by the next morning for your needs. And so we're making sure that those next level education tools are going in place. Partnering with SEW has been fabulous and able to make that digital journey a lot easier for our customers. And then when we get into it, is problems that us from a grid standpoint, we're starting to see which can negatively impact the consumer's experience and then also impact us from a workload experience. And what I mean from that is we need to truly understand the characteristics of the customer's home, meaning is it a 100 amp service? Is it a 200 amp service? Is a service upgrade going to be required for that customer? How much is that service upgrade going to take place? And so again, we don't want this to be a shock or surprise to our customer. So we want to educate them up front. We want to be able to assess and have some characteristics that allow us to understand as to the are they a 100 amp home, but then also provide them information that they may not have available if they're talking to an electrician, which is what's the maximum load my home actually uses? Is it only using 30 amp? And so hence I do have capacity on my 100 amp panel if I make the right decision, and or is there the potential, because they want an 80 amp charger, that there's some limitations or choices that they have to make, and part of that may be a service upgrade and or technology path. So it's an opportunity that we're seeing, Deepak, is that customers are about to make choices. Who's actually at the table with the customer to help them to understand choices of range, impact of charging habits, impacts of rate plans, and impacts on your service to be able to walk down this path of electrification and e-mobility.
Well, James, I love that because 4 years back, similar discussion we were having, and same time I made that comment, you always thinking is the customer in the center of all that, whatever the planning, irrespective of your planning for, irrespective of the e-mobility or the grid and all, because the customer is going to be to your point, customer is going to come to the utilities asking for why my bill is high, why I'm paying for more, why if in case for any distribution load standpoint, if asset fail, why my power is not out there, why I'm getting an outage, it was never planned. All that you always put that the customer in the center. And I love this part of uh, doesn't matter whatever the discussion we had, we talk about assets, we talk about grid, we talk about rate plan, we talk about regulations. Electra and you always think it's everything impact what we do at the customer level to what our strategy have to have customer centricity across the board. So in that context, definitely, double clicking on and being in front of the customer, educating them, their decisions at their home actually impact the overall grid along with their, definitely potential savings they're looking or participating in the clean energy initiatives. When you put that, a lot of those programs, which is really you driving or a lot of utilities driving, irrespective of that, energy efficiency programs, EV program, leveraging the micro level data and AI. And I know that you talk about, and I get very excited about that. How you think this data of the micro level of the customer, pretty much understanding of the grid, understanding of their own assets, when they charge, what they're paying, and all, and the AI, lead, and lead the innovation to handle this load growth, which is really in front of us, and which is more distributed than we can even predict for reason, and help utilities definitely from Electra to broader, to manage that grid loads coming in with a customer being in the center as a person or individuals or the family to take the right decision, because you are providing them a customer experience with the journeys to take the right decision at the right time in the real world. Can you just highlight a little bit? I love that gets shared.
Sure. So I think when we look at that, it's that whether it's federally here or from us as a provincially, it's the angle of getting to a goal of an electrification path, and from the standpoint of our carbon strategies and goals. But with that, what it comes down to is that that's a great a high level goal, but then what we're trying to say is from our side is that that messaging is getting out there, and our customers are investing within their home to try and get down that path that's important to them. And so most importantly is how is that customer able to have those assets to achieve their reliability, affordability goal, and how are we as the local distribution company making those assets available to the system operator, so that could be part of their supply mix as part of their strategy. So that's a change in philosophy back to our own control room. It's a change in philosophy back to the system operator of how they recognize these behind the meter assets. And for us, it comes down to the complexity of it to say, hey, if we think we're that interesting to our customers that they're going to be paying attention to us all day long, we've learned that that's not the case. They're looking for reliable power, ease to transact, and that affordability angle. So how are we, looking at next generation technologies between our CX platforms, between our AMI2 investments, so that we can have the, visibility through, disaggregation, looking at 1 second data to truly understand what loads are contributing to this, so that when we're trying to see an opportunity for demand response or basically device to grid, what is truly available, so that we can, with confidence, either control that and report that into the system operator on it, and or have it that from a settlement perspective from the customer's lens, what did we actually control and they fairly getting compensated for it. So that's a different level of sophistication we didn't have in the past as utilities. So that's where it's AMI2 vendors out there with their grid edge capabilities to monitor 1 second data, understanding the loading on the home to now communicate into those devices in the home to either achieve the customer's goal of affordability, or it could be that they want to avoid the service upgrade. So we want to control loads within the home so it meets the avoidance or deferral of a service upgrade cost. And to the end of utilities, we want to understand that. So if we're trying to protect transformer assets, we can initiate a local event, and or for the system operator, if they're trying to do a provincial event, how are we able to, and what assets can we control and contribute? So we see it as this triangle of customer, distribution company, system operator, and how is the customer able to have their assets participate in a way that we're following their rules, their guidance, and their investments to make this more seamless to them. And that's a bottom-up design instead of a top-down design is what we're trying to, lobby on behalf of our customers for.
I love that, James. I think I want to just, because I know that we are from the industry, though, we all understand, what the reliability and affordability for good reason means. I just want to make sure all our audience, for all the reasons and the double clicking on that, you as industry, and I'm putting that because I'm also part of the industry, but I know the hard part is you and all the executives across the globe, as a part of the utilities have to handle this so-called unpredictable, needs in context of when we talk about we need to be plan ahead. We need to do a lot of investment for planning or ahead because we know that need on the power or the water is not going to go down, is going to go up and up. At the same time, we have to provide 24/7 reliable service, which no other industry can commit, in the context of the as a company or under the regulatory body. On top of that, we are all doing that. We need to make it affordable. Means we have to make it the most cost effective, because this is the fundamental right of having somebody at home to have the power and the water. And as this gets so complicated, in this century, I think we try to solve a lot of great problem. I know that a lot of people think landing on the moon was very difficult, but I think this is really, I feel personally, and I'm really, thanks to the God, we are the part of this industry. This is the most complex equation to solve, where you have millions of people, just like you are serving millions of people. At the same time, you're making sure they are getting the service, reliable service and affordable service. At the same time, thinking ahead without impacting the today. Is like, I just feel that whenever their discussion comes, definitely in this context with you and any other industry leader, it's a tremendous pressure, but at the same time, I always see, the industry leaders are smiling, you always smiling, say, no, we love this challenge. We want to work with regulatory bodies. We want to work with the federal and state governments to ensure that they also see that, and the customer have the real time, that information and decision making available, which is, you always push that. If the customer have the decision making capability in their hand with the right information, they will go and become the part of this whole ecosystem, rather than we only planning for it. We want you customers of the utilities to be the part of the plan, to be the part of the participation, to address the overall, the goals you are trying to achieve. So in that context, I know that we always talk about customer, AI, and digital transformation. Knowing that you've been very, very proactive. 4-5 years back, you already had the strategy, how we going to be, and definitely now looking forward today in 2025, definitely you had that plan 5 years back. That's why I feel Alectra being more proactive than a lot of utilities are catching up on that. When you see that, how, according to you, that planning and today digital platform are enabling, along with the customer, the grid planning, the programs, and I know that you talk about the real-time transactions and the trades where you can do, how you see that, because customers are buying more assets. In this case is definitely a lot of people, the prediction was one EV at every home, and now we have two EVs at home. And good, bad reason people don't know, like 2 EVs is like the huge load which was never predicted. So how you see that the role of AI, data, and digital transformation moving forward is going to be playing in our industry for grid and e-mobility planning and all.
Yeah. So a lot of that is stakeholdering. Like for us, it's what's the size of the problem? It's not just throw the problem out there. It's to basically say that there are solutions such as with AI and so forth to enable the utility to fulfill, and meet this obligation and not do it in a way that it's a different approach to it. So examples of that, you mentioned the multiple EVs within the home and so forth. But there's the next gen, like this is where you have a healthy vendor communities where the next generation chargers talking to the utility assets. So we, like, for us, it's about I'm going to use an example use case here, is that we have it that within our service territory there's the potential of anywhere between 150 to 200,000 homes that are 100 amp services, right? So that's, we're at 1.1 million. So it's a large amount of homes. So again, it can't just be to go to the customer and say, yeah, pay for a service upgrade. So we're looking for, how do we work with the community to say, how can I use my digital platform to engage the customer? How can I use the next generation AI to monitor the load on the home and controllable load, which is the level 2 charger, so that we can avoid the customer's upgrade, we can avoid transformer upgrades. Like, we're trying to use tech to help us from the standpoint of manage the grid, use AI in order, and there's more data available to us. So how are we doing it in a prudent way in order to manage the asset and solve problems, put it into a use case level and stakeholder that, so that the regulators and so forth understand the wise choice of AI investments. And then most importantly, in the end, are these investments driving to value savings to the end consumer? And I think if we can go to the end consumer to say, hey, we have options. It's not always just, upgrade your home. There's actually other options in place to defer those investments. But us working and partnering with AI providers in order to achieve those goals, it's, again, understand the problem, what's the size of it, how does technology in the industry enable us to solve those problems, and they've been fabulous. And then in the end, how do we package it all together in an ease to transact with the customer so they can sign up for these programs and it's seamless for them, and we're able to actually communicate that in a way that is it's not burdensome, and where it turns into a time to draw from other aspects of our industry we've seen.
No, I love that, James, and I think we discussed that multiple time with the multiple utility, and definitely between us also. The problem when we talk about the supply and demand, definitely the supply is also in this century got the most variable. We used to have the full control on the supply. Yeah. Now that has become variable because of renewable integration for reasons. Yeah. We all need to think about that. And the demand, to your point, with the e-mobility penetration and all the other loads happening, AI data centers and everything require a more electron to be drawn. Now the traditional solution is wire solution, where you can put billions and trillions of dollars to put a new power plants, to put a new transmission line and upgrade, which is 10 years, 20 years program, and billions and trillions of dollars for the countries. Doesn't matter they have or not, they have to do that, for good reasons. Or you go, as you always talk about, that you go and empower the utilities and the customer with real-time intelligence. Doesn't matter, is a customer experience platform to have a connected workforce to be able to know that before the assets getting failed or preventive maintenance and all. When you look these two set of tracks, which is both are important. One will definitely provide the stability and reliability, which is non-wire solution, to go fast track to make sure we don't have the grid in imbalance for reasons. At the same time, the lot of investment on the wire solution, because that has to continue. How you think the utilities are balancing this long-term big investments in infrastructure, along with this non-wire, which is digital, AI, and educational mindset, a real-time engagement standpoint for both to the system operator, to the distribution companies, and the customer? What do you see that, And then on top, we are really having a lot of innovation happening in the e-mobility area, where people are trying to do more fast charging, means more electron to be pulled from the grid. just I think love to know from you, what exactly you and the Electra is thinking in that era.
So a lot of it is making sure, as part of that system planning that we started this conversation with,
Sure.
is that here's the load impact we have, and here's the investment strategy. But if we can have access to controllable load at the grid edge, we can have an avoidance of around $600 million as part of that capital plan, right? So it comes down to that understanding again, like, here's the problem, but we do, like, as the utility, we're trying to work diligently with the industry as to alternative solutions that can avoid that impact to rate base, but not impact the reliability angle that we're trying to put there. So the industry is moving quickly. I think the availability of information and visibility at the grid edge now is a lot stronger than it has been in the past. And then, to be able to see the loading impact on those transformers, to understand the loads in the home and to be able to control it. We never had that before. It was a lot of from the substation down standard algorithms and so forth, but it wasn't the trust factor on those decision makings is critical. So we're seeing that capabilities now, and then politically, when we're talking to our customers, is that this is so much money is going out, to your earlier point about generation. Well, how if we can carve some of that funding so that the customer is able to participate in that, that's a policy win, that their investments in their home are being recognized, right? And that's why for us it was about, how do we get transactive energy platforms as part of the CX strategies? How do we get trust scores in front of customers so that they can see how trusted they are by the utility for that load to be controlled? So I think these are all critical elements. They're all building blocks to get where we're trying to go. There's not just one solution. I think we're trying to make sure that's clear within our own organization, that there's multiple ways to solve the problem, but in the end, the customer's journeys have to be part of them. And so how are we all tying all these solutions in place, happy path and unhappy path? And that's it's an evolving thing. We're evolving as a utility. We're trying to make sure that we have a plan that's clear. We're stakeholdering the customers and the regulator, but it's one that is a key point to the beginning of all this, that the customer is the center of, and we're trying to get it that they can participate and not have it that the utility is a barrier to e-mobility or electrification, but they're helping enable that for the customer.
No, James, I always love that, because we talked about this, the vertical AI is going to play the biggest role. We definitely love the AI, but at least for the industry focus, to a point, when we're talking about the customer, multiple use cases, multiple type of the customer, from residential to enterprise, to definitely, landlords, for who's really going to be getting impacted, and then they're going to be coming to the utilities for all the reasons, because at the end of the day, they want those programs so they can have the affordable power at the home. While at the same time, the grid is not going to be just balanced because of the load. We have the different variable load, and we talk about this from the multiple dimension. When that is happening, the trust of the customer is only when you have a real-time information, right information available to have them take the right decision. And I love that when you always say that the multiple use case and solution, but single integrated platform as a utility in front of the customer is a key, because you cannot go to 10 different doors and 10 different solution to cater the customer, because of all the data goes all over the place, and who's messaging what and which journey is connecting what. So I think last I know that we over 1 minute, and then that you have a limited time, but on this end of this podcast, what is the 1 or 2 line message you want to give it to the audience and other utilities, from looking in the future, the year from now or 5 years from now, what they should be when they're thinking about assets, grid, all that together, what should be the center of their strategy, or what they will be looking for, 2 or 3 things, I think then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. I think number one is that the fundamentals don't change, right? It's it's affordability, reliability, and it's safety, right? And then, but what we've tacked on is the fourth is the ease to transact. That's that single integrated digital platform that we're engaging the customers on the channels of their choice, but all journeys, right? And that's the fundamental that we're trying to make sure is in place, is that as these evolving initiatives come into play, we're basically saying, okay, so this has to be presented through the single CX layer to our customers, so it's seamless to them, and that it's a lot of a mentality of set and forget is what we're trying to do with customers. We've learned in the past of the there's different personas and so forth, but it comes down to that: how are we making this easy for our customers to be engaged, and how are we respecting their time and effort with the information that's important to them? It still doesn't change. We're still finding that where our customers want us most is when there's outages. They want those notifications. They want the high messaging. They want to know we're ready, we're working on it, and so forth. And when it's in the day-to-day mentality, it comes down to, am I on the most affordable plan? Am I efficiently using and participating in programs that you have? How can we actually use the single layer to assure all these things to the customers that they're getting maximum value from us at that time?
Thank you, James. And there's no limit of time, because if we keep talking, we'll be for sure. And I really respect your time and your intelligence and all thought leadership you provide to Electra and all that, everybody who is watching and will be watching this podcast. Thank you, James, again for your time, and have a good day.
Thank you, Deepak.
Thank you, sir. Take care.